one.
Hi, my name is Kelly Neal, and I'm going to be showing you how to do an occupied bed change. So we're going to assume that as I walked into the room, I've already hand sanitized and I've already introduced myself to my patient, that this isn't the first thing I'm actually doing for them. So I'm going to let him know that I'm going to be changing his linen. An occupied bed change means I'm going to be changing the bed while the patient is still in it. So if you have a patient who doesn't get out of bed for some reason, this is how you would change linens. Now, as far as changing linen, how frequently we do it, it will depend on where you work. In the nursing homes, they do shower days twice a week. They change all linens, blankets, bedspreads, everything gets changed at least twice a week. And on the other days, they usually only change the necessary pieces of linen. Some places used to change all linen every day, but it's very wasteful and it's very expensive for a facility. Hospitals, nursing homes, they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars every year on just laundry. So usually they'll have you change the necessary pieces, other than twice a week they'll get all of it changed. So we're gonna go get our linen that we need out of the linen cart. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that in the linen cart we do not wear gloves, we should just have clean hands. You want to kind of get your linens out in the order of how you think you're going to need them. So this is an occupied bed change. So I'm going to want my fitted sheet first. A sheet, if I'm going to make a draw sheet out of it, I'm going to take a sheet to use a draw sheet. A waterproof pad. Usually in the nursing home, most of the residents will have a waterproof pad underneath them. A top sheet. And then if it's there twice a week, then it would be a new bedspread as well. Otherwise, we can save the bedspread and just change the regular sheets and use the bedspread again, depending on what it is. So that should be everything that we need there. Now, some people like to take a towel to set down to put their dirty linens on. Usually I'm going to recommend that you just have a bag, like a linen bag, that you just dump your linens in as you're doing it. So now we're going to come over, and again, I'm holding this away from my body. And when I come into the patient's room, now when I flip it over, this should be in the order of how I need it. Oh, but the one thing I did forget was a pillowcase. And that is the downside of forgetting something. It means extra steps. So we're gonna have to go back and get a new pillowcase as well. So it's nice to look at how many pillows your patient has before you get started. So, we're going to change the sheets and the pillows. I am going to use gloves for this. For an occupied bed change, because I'm dealing with dirty linen, at the same time I'm doing clean linen, I'm going to be wearing gloves for this skill. I'm going to pull my privacy curtain. I'm going to leave that side open for you so the camera can come in, but you would normally want to make sure you pull your privacy curtain. And we're going to bring this bed up to a good working height. Now, to do an occupied bed change by yourself, your patient has to be able to roll and turn. If they cannot do that for you, you have to have help. So we're going to say that this patient can roll and turn. So we're going to bring the bed up to a good working height for me. And just make sure when you're lifting that bed up that it doesn't catch the bedside table as it's coming up. Probably good for me. That rail has to stay up. So the first thing I like to do is I like to go ahead and just kind of pull my linens. I like to go ahead and it just sort of helps me. I just go ahead and kind of pop my corners a little bit. All right, so I am going to have him roll on his side. Now we'll get this out of our way. Just got to remember to give it back to him when I'm all done. So we're going to have him roll over. And we're going to say this person can roll easy and can stay on their side. And I'll just move this pillow underneath their head. And I like to just kind of use this to, again, warmth and privacy. Even though this is dirty and I'm going to be taking this part out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and finish. Hopefully he'll stay there. Mannequins aren't always as cooperative as patients. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this linen out, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to roll this up underneath the person. Now, when you do an unoccupied bed change, you wear gloves to take off the dirty linen and then you take your gloves off when you put clean linen on. But because I'm dealing with dirty and clean continuously through this, I still have my gloves on. So I'm going to take my fitted sheet, and you are going to tuck this underneath the dirty one. So the clean is going to go under the dirty. Now, as far as a draw sheet, draw sheets are used, some facilities don't use draw sheets anymore, they just use waterproof pads. But a draw sheet is wonderful if you have a patient that is really large or that is dead weight and they can't help you move or turn. A draw sheet will give you better leverage. A draw sheet should go from shoulder to mid-thigh. That's where that draw sheet should go. And sometimes I see people fold the draw sheet up into a little square and put it right underneath the waterproof pad. If that's all you're doing with it, why even waste the linen? If you're just going to put it directly under the waterproof pad, just use the waterproof pad. The draw sheet is to give you a little bit bigger surface area. So what you do is you fold your sheet in half, or you unfold it and then fold it in half. And this is always a little easier to do with another person. Oh, someone folded my linen wrong to begin with. Okay, just probably me. So I am going to fold my linen in half. Now, one thing with linen is we don't shake linen. We try to unfold linen. That's just kind of tricky when you're using a draw sheet. So I am going to try to get those wrinkles out. So I'm going to put this so it's from shoulder to mid-thigh, and I want to kind of get it at the halfway mark. So this looks like that would be about halfway. And then what you can do with this is you want to get all the wrinkles out as much as you can. Nothing worse when you don't feel good to be laying on a bunch of wrinkles. So you get all these wrinkles out as much as you can. And this can actually get tucked in. Okay, now the other thing I'm going to have, and I'll tuck that in a little bit better once I get them folded over. Okay, then I have a waterproof pad, which if you have a resident that has issues with incontinence, you are going to want one of these. So again, I kind of look for that halfway mark, and I put the halfway mark about halfway on the bed, and then I roll this side up. So now I have this clean linen, and I am going to tuck it under the dirty linen. Now what that's going to do though is it's going to give him a nice big fat lump to roll over. So I'm going to squish it down as best as I can. I'm going to put this rail up, and now I'm going to ask my resident to roll over. Now just kind of untangle them so they don't mummify themselves. And then I'll have them roll over to their other side. And again, I still just try to use this top sheet blanket as a thing. Now that rails up, so I'm going to come around on this side now. I'm going to finish taking off all my dirty linen. And this I can actually put in a soiled linen hamper or in a linen bag. Okay, and I would stick it straight into the linen bag. And now I'll go ahead and make the rest of my bed. So you can see if you have a patient that doesn't move or turn, you really have to have help with this skill. You have to have help to get them rolled over. Again, try to get all of your wrinkles out as you can. This draw sheet from shoulder to mid-thigh, and it's like I got it a little bit more. The excess you can, now when you're lifting a person up, you roll this up and it helps you lift the person up, but when it's not in use, you can tuck it in so it doesn't get all wrinkled up. A little harder to do with gloves. It's easier to do clean linens without gloves, but again, on an occupied bed change, we tend to. All right. So I still have the top linen and the pillowcase to do. And it doesn't really matter so much which order of that I do. So when you do the pillowcase, two ways you can do this. The way I was taught is you just grab it here from the bottom, come up, so I've got the seam right there, and I grab the end, and then I slide it up. But what you'll also see a lot of people do is fold it and then stick it in. What we do not do in nursing is put it under our chin and shake it, okay? And you want the tag to be on the inside so the tag's not hanging out. And if you really want to be nice, if the door is there, I would put the solid seam to the door, not the open into the seam. That's a hotel nicety. That's it. That's all it is. It's not an infection control issue. So we have everything done with our top sheets now. So again, we don't shake linens out, we unfold them. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but on linen, there is a seam side and a smooth side. And the smooth side on the sheet goes against the patient. Now, sincerely, if you made the bed and this was the part against the patient, this is not going to be a big deal. But they recommend that the smooth side goes against the patient on the sheet. So I'm going to bring this up, and I tend to unfold it. And now I'm going to pull these out. And I just like to do it that way again, just so I keep them covered up for privacy. And this will go in my dirty linen hamper bag. So you can see there's a seam right here on the middle. I try to line the middle seam up. Now the bedspread, you want it turned so it looks nice from the outside. So on the bedspread, when we use our bedspread, again, we unfold it. If they're folded nice, they actually unfold pretty well, but we refold all of our stuff here. The students just reuse stuff over and over in here, so it kind of gets not folded up quite as nice as maybe it should be, or what you'll find in a hospital. Now, one thing you want to do on these bedspreads is, again, you're looking for that middle seam. There's a middle seam. You kind of want to make sure it's in the middle. You can bring this excess up. It's a little harder to make the bed look perfectly nice and neat when you have a patient in it than it is, you know, when you're all done. Okay, now this bed here. So what I like to do when I have a patient who is in bed still is, instead of tucking all of this in nice and smooth, if I tuck this in nice and tight, when the first time they start moving their feet, they're gonna rip everything up. So what I like to do is I like to grab it right here where their feet are. I grab the sheet and the blanket, and I just put a fold right here. And it won't end up looking as perfectly nice and neat when the bed's all done, but it'll be a lot more practical when your patient starts moving around in bed. It won't kick everything out. So now I take my sheet and my bedspread, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna tuck this all in. And you grab your sheet and your bedspread, and you fold this up, and you tuck this part in. This is called a mitered corner, or a hospital corner, or a military corner. And again, it's not going to be perfect because I've purposely left this in here for the patient's toes. Again, I realize that's not as pretty as it could look, but it's just so much more practical. Your patient won't rip your whole bed out within 5 minutes. Okay. All right, so we have gotten our bed changed here. And we'll put the bed down. And again, anytime you do anything with your patient, bathing, bed changing, anything like that, you always want to make sure when you're done that the bed looks reasonably nice and neat. Again, not gonna look as perfect as it could when they were in it, when you made it. Bed's always in low position when you're done. The two upper rails are up. Call light is always in reach. Bring their bedside. I would have gotten, all this went into my soiled linen hamper. So if this was in the soiled linen hamper, now this will come back and you'll bring it to, if they have things that they like to reach, we'll set right here. And we are all done, so we'll take off our gloves. These will go in the garbage, and then we would wash our hands or hand sanitize. And we're done.